Hi everyone, welcome. I've had my thunder sort of stolen by Sally and Pauline there. I was going to introduce Tim Forcey. There are 4 seats up the front if anyone's looking for a chair. So Tim is the author of this book, My Efficient Electric Home Handbook, among many other things. I was going to say he's a home assessor, but we were just chatting before our talk, and assessor is not a word he uses in his job title. Could you say what your title actually is, Tim? And
I call myself a home comfort and energy advisor, and initially my wife thought that was strange sounding, but it's really comfort is the reason that people ring up to get some help. So I figured we might as well put that at the beginning of the job title.
Sure, and I suppose comfort's certainly the forefront of my mind after a pretty restless night's sleep. I'm not sure how everyone else slept last night, but I've got evaporative cooling. And in your book, you say at one stage, with evaporative cooling, you get what you get. You can't sort of control or choose the temperature. And so if there's humidity in the air, then you might not get much cooling at all. And I can guarantee you that that's what I had last night. So,
and we'll probably talk about it later, but you can't heat your home in winter with evaporative cooling. Whereas with reverse cycle air conditioning, it's kind of a miracle thing that you can get cooling, that you can control, and it's the cheapest way to heat in winter. So, the evaporative cooling had its place, but maybe in the past or other locations.
Sure. It seems, well, to me at least, counterintuitive that these reverse cycle split system air conditioners, most people will probably know them as, can just heat a house. Like, with a number of them, can really efficiently heat a whole home. Is that correct? Because yes. Obviously, the gas industry wouldn't want you to know that.
No, I mean, in the old days, the only way we could imagine of heating something was if we had a fire. And that was pretty easy to understand because we've been doing that for, I don't know, a million years or something. You set something on fire and that can heat a place. But you'll see these days, out and about here, we have these hot water heat pumps. So that's a heat pump technology. It uses a refrigerant system to actually extract free heat from the air to heat your water. So check out these hot water heat pumps. They can heat your water for a third the cost of gas, and even less if you've got solar panels on the roof, because they only use like 800 watts of electricity, less than a hairdryer, to do their business of running the refrigerant system and getting free heat from the air. So it's practically free hot water if you can get set up with that. And the same technology can be used to heat a house in the wintertime. That's a reverse cycle air conditioner. So sure, every day there's more and more people buying reverse cycle air conditioners, thinking most for summer, for cooling. But what I tell people is you're actually going to use it a lot more in the winter time. You're going to use it all winter long for the cheapest source of heat. So be thinking about when you're choosing your reverse cycle air conditioner and where you put it in the house, that mostly you're going to use it as your winter heater.
And another good thing about using reverse cycle air conditioners as heaters is that they don't, unlike ducted heating, they don't take up space in your roof, sort of disturbing space where insulation could be. And also, I was looking at my, again, evaporative cooling this morning. I have a lot of holes in my ceiling. And of course, if you have a hole in your ceiling, air can escape, whether that's hot air or cold air, depending on the season. And obviously, these split systems, you don't need holes in your ceiling or ducts or anything like that. They're attached to the wall, and they have a unit on the outside. And actually, going back to your use of the term free heat, you say in your book that the good thing about free heat is that it is free. So could you expand then on how these reverse cycle air conditioners, which are basically heat pumps, am I correct there, how they work?
Sure. Yeah, they're heat pumps. And so, by the way, you can get a reverse cycle air conditioner either ducted or not ducted. Right. So you're talking about the not ducted split systems.
Yep.
And that can often be the cheapest way to set things up and the lowest cost way to operate, and it allows you to control every zone or room in your home if you've got an individual not ducted split system there. But you can certainly also do reverse cycle air conditioning with a ducted system. You'll lose a bit of energy out the ducts. As you say, you got ducts running around through the ceiling or under the floor, and you got to make sure animals don't crawl into the ducts under the floor. So there's a bit more risk and fiddling about with the ducted system, but you can get reverse cycle with ducted, and that's still going to be cheaper than using gas. Now, how do they work? They've got a refrigerant system in there, and they get free heat from outside. Now, I think on a day like today, a lot of people could say, yeah, there's heat in the air. But what people have a more difficulty thinking about is, say it's -2 degrees here in Buninyong on a cold morning. People say there's no heat in the air. How can a refrigerant system get heat out of the air? But if you think there's no heat in the air when it's -2, you're thinking about it from your point of view, where your body temperature is 37 degrees or something, whereas the refrigerant in the air conditioner is like -25. So when you're a refrigerant at -25 degrees, even if it's -2, there is heat in the air that the refrigerant can absorb. Then the refrigerant goes through its cycle, goes through a compressor, then it's hot enough, it becomes hot enough, then it goes through to the fan, where then that blows the heat off the refrigerant, and that's how you heat your house. That cools the refrigerant a bit. It goes back through an expansion valve, again, which gets really cold, back down to -25 degrees, and around and around it goes. But some people, I'm a chemical engineer, but some people find that a bit hard to follow, the whole refrigerant system. I mean, it's what's in your fridge. It's the same deal. But my wife came up with a way of expressing it. She said, with these hot water heat pumps or with your reverse cycle, for every 1 unit of electricity you put into it, you'll be getting 4 or 5 units of heat coming out of it. And so she said, tell them it's like you go to the shoe store. And you go to the shoe store, you give them money for a pair of shoes, but they give you 4 pairs of shoes. Mm-hmm. So that's what you can get with the hot water heat pumps or the reverse cycle. Gas, on the other hand, when you buy gas, what's the first thing you do with gas when you buy it? You set it on fire. And a good bit of the heat goes up the chimney. So that's like going to the shoe store. You pay for a pair of shoes, and they only give you the right shoe. So you go home without the left shoe. So the gas industry really can't compete with those economics anymore. You do find the state and federal governments that are offering rebates and incentives for heating your water with a hot water heat pump, for even replacing gas heating with a reverse cycle system. So check out those rebates. They won't be there forever. We all know the state of the Victorian government budget. So if you're going to make the switch, you might as well do it sooner rather than later and grab some of those rebates that are out there.
You mentioned the gas industry, and I'll jump on there. It's a good point to say that they don't really want people to know about this free heat that we're referring to. Do you think the gas industry is going to exist in 20 years' time in this country?
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose so, but it's going to be expensive. So, yeah, if you want, expensive gas, then, maybe you're going to be able to get hold of it. Funny thing is, I migrated to Australia to work in the gas industry. And now I tell people don't use this stuff because you got cheaper, safer, cleaner, healthier options. And one of the situation right now is that most of Victoria's gas used to come out of the Bass Strait and some out of the Otway Basin as well. But I used to get in the helicopters down in Gippsland and fly to all the offshore oil and gas platforms out in the Bass Strait. And it was pretty amazing. You look down at all of this, and the deal is that they discovered that, they discovered all that oil and gas like 59 years ago. And they looked at it and said, wow, there's like 60 years worth of gas here that we could, use in Melbourne and Victoria. And they discovered that 59 years ago. So if people keep using gas, if they want to pay 3 or 4 times as much for a fuel source, it's coming from further and further away. It's coming from the Queensland coal seam gas fields down the pipelines that connect up Adelaide and Melbourne and Sydney and Melbourne. So it's coming from quite far away, which is expensive. And now they're looking at bringing imported gas by ship, so liquefied gas in a ship into Geelong. So they're going to do that. And so you'll be able to get gas, but it's not going to be cheap. It's not like it's just coming out basically for free out of the Bass Strait anymore, a byproduct of the oil industry. So, it'll be very expensive gas for the future. I just say, look, get off gas. Get your whole home off gas. So the hot water heat pump, the reverse cycle air conditioner, get an induction cooktop. Cooking with gas in the home has safety and health issues. And then you can get off the gas grid. I mean, you're paying like $1 a day just to be connected to gas. Yeah. So you don't have to do that anymore. I mean, I always ask this question of the audience. Get ready to put up your hand. Who wants to get a gas bill for the rest of your life? And so far, no one's put up their hand. So people say, I want to get off the electricity grid. You probably won't do that, but you can get off the gas grid for sure. That's what we're doing.
And as you point out, you're paying just to be on the grid. Even if you don't use any gas at all, you're still paying money just to be on the grid.
Well, yeah, some people do that. They get the hot water heat pump, they get the reverse cycle heating and cooling, and they're like, I'll just stick with the gas cooking. I like gas cooking. And they still get this gas bill for this much gas. So mostly what they're paying is the connection fees because
Yep.
cooking doesn't use a lot of gas.
So could we talk about induction cooking then? Because I know amongst my peers, I think that cooking would be probably the one thing that people would think, no, I have to use gas. It's, it allows me to increase or decrease the temperature quickly. So I've read a bit about induction cooking, but obviously you know more about it than I do. So can you tell me, you can adjust the heat quickly with an induction cooker? That's right, isn't it?
So you don't have an induction cooker yet?
I don't have one. I'm getting one.
Get in the raffle.
Yeah.
And you might get a free one today.
Good point. Thank you. Yeah, I will.
And that is a
Good
good
advice
way.
for everyone.
And that is a good way to start. I mean, we wanted to get on induction cooking, but the kitchen needed a bit of a partial renovation. So yeah, the first thing we do was got a portable.
Yep.
And played around with that. And we still have it. We might loan it out to friends or neighbors if they want to try it. Or if we want to cook soup, on a 40-degree day, we can do that outside. It's just basically a portable hot plate. Mm-hmm. So that can be a good way for $50, $75 to start with the induction cooking. No electrician needed. Just plug it into the wall. Look, induction cooking. Well, first off, as I said, with gas it gives off contaminants when you're burning gas. I mean, you're burning something in your home. I mean, my grandmother used to cook over coal. She thought that was cool. And then the gas came along that was seen as a bit cleaner. But gas still gives off nitrous oxide, which can contribute to childhood asthma. But also gives off formaldehyde and carbon monoxide and sulfur dioxide and, benzene and particulates, etc. So, we don't have to do this anymore. So we can have a much cleaner cooking situation in our home. The induction, yeah, it's fast. I mean, this morning before driving up from Melbourne, I had a bit of a big breakfast. So, in the fry pan over here, we got some mushrooms, the spinach, some tomatoes. Eventually, I'll put the egg on there. But I always have to remember to put the toast down first,
right,
because we're going to be done cooking all this before the toast is even ready. I mean, you can start it on P, that's powerful, but then you put it on 13 and turn it down to 8. I mean, it's digital. We're used to digital things these days. Eventually, you get used to it. You know what 4 means. As opposed to having to bend over and check the gas and then go visit your chiropractor afterwards. So.
And yes, as Pauline said earlier, over at the Breeze tent, diagonally opposite that way, there will be some chefs showing you how to make stir fries in woks using an induction cooker. So I do encourage you to go over there afterwards and obviously enter the raffle because you could get a signed copy of Tim's book for free. What else should we talk about, Tim? Did you... Sorry, bear with me. I'll just go through my notes here. I was enjoying the conversation so much. What I suppose are some very immediate and very cheap adjustments people can make to their home when they go home today or this week, or you know what I mean, just very simple quick fixes that will make a difference.
Yeah, I know it's still summer and it's still warm, but I do think about winter a lot and the whole getting off gas thing. So just be thinking ahead to next winter and how you can be using a reverse cycle air conditioner for heating. Maybe you already own it, or maybe you were thinking of getting reverse cycle anyway. So, it's a third the cost of heating with gas. So get your home set up that you can be heating with a reverse cycle air conditioner. And then the other top tip is there's filters in air conditioners, whether it's an individual split system or whether it's a ducted system. There's a filter in there, or at least there should be, and they get dirty and they need to be cleaned. So many times I'm in people's homes, particularly with some of the younger kids, we're not born knowing that there's filters in air conditioners.
Yep.
And maybe a young couple's been fortunate enough to be able to buy a home. And so I'm like, you could be heating with this air conditioner. Oh, that's good. Did you know there's a filter in there? Nah, what's that? So we get a bit of a ladder maybe if you have to get up there and open the front of the reverse cycle air conditioner. And oh my God, some of the filthy filters that you can see, it's hard to believe that the air conditioner's even been working. So that's a top tip is heat with an air conditioner, but make sure the filter's clean. What are some of the other ones? Roof space insulation is vital. We've got like EnviroFlex over here that can tell you more about roof space insulation. I've got a thermal imaging camera, and so I'll go into someone's home, particularly on a day like today, and with the thermal imaging camera, the infrared, you can just see all the hot spots in the roof space because the insulation's missing. Maybe you had all those downlights, and so no one put insulation near the downlights, and so that's a flaw. Or anytime anybody goes up in the roof space, they move the insulation away like it's a tradie doing something with the NBN or to change a light bulb or to put in an air conditioner or solar panels. They'll move the insulation out of the way. They won't put it back. And so that's That's absolutely critical that you have a perfect and thick layer of insulation. And then probably the number 3 of the things I tell people about is draft proofing. So our homes are very drafty. Start sealing up your home, particularly if you're not using gas in the home anymore. You're not going to be poisoning yourself with the gas. So at this point, then you can start sealing up those wall vents and sealing up the chimneys and caulking around the skirting boards, et cetera, and try to reduce the drafts in your home. And I could talk for hours also then about air quality management, moisture management. But what we want to do is we want to have a home that's fairly tight. But then, you got to open up windows up. You open your windows a fair bit when the weather's nice to get the fresh air in. So, heat with your air conditioner, check the filter, draft proofing, make sure your roof space insulation's perfect.
And with the draft proofing and making sure your insulation's perfect, that's part of a concept that you call the thermal envelope of the home. Could you just quickly talk about that, and then I'll open it up for questions because I'm conscious we're running over time.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about the electrical equipment, the solar panels, the heat pumps, etc. But the other part of it is the thermal envelope of the home. That's your insulation, your draft proofing, your windows, your window treatment. So, our homes are, traditionally very poor, very leaky, not insulated that well. And so you can make your home a lot more comfortable by improving those things. Some of those things can be relatively low cost or cost effective. For example, improving your roof space insulation. Some of the draft proofing can be done DIY, perhaps. There's lots of videos that can help you with that. Window treatments are very important, that you have good window treatments, warm window treatments inside in the winter, but also it's good to have awnings and shades and stuff outside for the summertime. Improving the windows, getting to the double glazing. We've got Ultimate Windows over here. Check them out. That can be more expensive, but and further down the list in terms of priorities versus cost effectiveness, but still can be a wonderful thing if you're able to get the double glazed windows happening.
And a cheaper alternative there, although possibly not as good looking, is to put bubble wrap on your windows. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. Some people say, "Look, I'm a renter. What can I do?" And there's the bubble wrap idea, particularly for winter. My daughter was renting a place. My grandson's room was fairly cold in the winter and kind of dug into a hillside, and they weren't really overheating the room very much. So, of course, you always just saw the moisture condensation on the windows, and it was kind of hard to mop all that moisture up. So there wasn't much to see outside anyway, so we bubble wrapped the window, which is pretty easy. You cut the bubble wrap to the right size, just squirt the windows with a little bit of water and just stick the bubble wrap up there, and done. And look, it's, our climate, it's not like this is, Chicago or, like a really cold place. It's not like we got snow on the ground 6 months of the year. So even bubble wrap can really make a significant difference to the windows and almost bring it up to the performance of double glazing. Sure, it doesn't look quite as good as double glazing.
But it increases the comfort of your home, and
that's right.
It's a temporary fix, Yeah,
if there's not much, or if you're a renter, there's not much to see outside, it'll still let some light through, so it works.
I will open up to questions just in a moment, but as Tim says, do go around and talk to the experts who are here today. A lot of them have come from far afield to share their expertise with you. But as well, in Tim's book, he does have a number of resources in the back of the book, websites, other books, and people that you can approach for, rebates and that sort of thing. So it is a very valuable book, not just in terms of the advice Tim has to offer, but in terms of next steps, where to go next, and referring you on to, who the experts are in particular fields that you can get in touch with. So, does anyone have any questions for Tim? Hello, right in the front here.
I'm about to put in some reverse cycle heating, air conditioning, and I have 3 questions. One is do you have tips for what kind of unit to buy? Like, what should I be looking for? Secondly, do they have to be on an exterior, a wall? What's that word? Like an outside wall. And thirdly, how do you actually get the gas cut off from a house?
Right. Okay, good. Right, so it sounds like you're going with not ducted split systems for your reverse cycle. What I say to folks is, it can be kind of hard to do these days, but if you can get like the hard copy printout brochures of everything that they offer, that can be handy, and you look through it and you're like, whoa, what's that? And in particular, what I'm talking about is there are floor-mounted reverse cycle air conditioners, which people don't know about because mostly we're putting them up there. And putting them up there makes a lot of sense for summer cooling because the cold air comes down. But you're going to be using this thing 10 times as much for heating all winter long as for cooling. And so you'd be better off if you had one of these floor-mounted reverse cycle air conditioners because then the heat rises. It'll still work for cooling, but check that out. But my point is, don't just take what the salesperson says. Oh, you want this? Maybe do a bit of research. Try and figure out everything that they've got available. I mean, there's other, there's cassette type reverse cycle air conditioners. There's no ducts involved, but it's a cassette like right up in the ceiling of maybe like you've got a big living space. Maybe you've seen this sort of thing in like a business or a conference room or something like that. But if you've got a big space at home, you can get a reverse cycle air conditioner that's just right in the ceiling. There's no ducts associated with it. There's the refrigerant gets there through the copper pipes in the usual way. And then another way to do it, if you don't like the look of the air conditioners, like you can get them hiding in a bulkhead. So there's a number of different options available, and it'd be good if you knew about all of them rather than just the first thing that the salesperson wants to send you. They do like to put the split systems on an exterior wall. A reason is, well, that's closer to the outside part of the equipment, and the refrigerant, the small insulated copper piping with the refrigerant needs to get between the inside and the outside unit. But also, in summer, when you're running an air conditioner, it will condense moisture out of the air. It will dehumidify, and that moisture needs to drip out a condensate drain line. So they do like to put them on an outside wall for that reason. You don't have to do that. You could put it on an interior wall, but then you're probably going to have a little condensate pump that will pump the water away. So there's a lot of, the air conditioning people have a lot of tricks up their sleeve for doing different things. And so, yeah, don't assume that something's not possible. Pursue it a bit, and maybe you'll get what you want. And then the last question was about how do you get off gas? Well, it's pretty easy in Victoria these days, fortunately. So you just ring up your gas supplier and your retailer, and you say, once you're not using any gas, you can say, look, you can see the meter's not turning over anymore. I'm not using any more gas. What happens next? And chances are they say, well, we'll need to take the meter away, and they're not allowed to charge you any more than like $220 plus GST for the meter to go away. If you were in New South Wales, they might sting you for $1,500, and in Canberra, they might charge you $2,000. But the Victorian government has said here, no, you can't be stung for any more than $220 plus GST. I mean, I think the number should be $0, but that's what you might be up for. Yeah, and they come and take it away, and that's the end of it. Yep. And so I say to folks, you can stay on gas. You asked me if there'll be gas in the future. You can stay on gas, but it's going to get more and more expensive. Even the connection fee will be getting more expensive. Why? Because, all your neighbors are leaving the gas grid, and eventually if you want to stay on gas, you get to pay for the whole thing yourself. So.
All right. And then I'll...
As opposed to bubble wrap, what are your thoughts on using something like EcoFlex films on windows? I've got two Western windows, a house is made with blocks and outside awnings because they have a high risk of explosion when people drill into them. So I was thinking of using EcoFlex and cover off the windows, the west facing windows.
So
it's a film product.
Right.
And they're different.
Yeah. Yeah, so like films for windows, it depends, are we talking about you want to improve things in the winter or in the summer? So like if you've got heat coming in, then you can put films on there. Like all of our cars have films on the windows, of course. So you can put that on, get a film for your home as well. But be aware that's also going to cut your visible light, and it's going to cut your visible light, particularly in winter. And so you may end up disappointed. Oh, what did I put that film on there in the middle of summer? I didn't realize what it was going to look like in the winter. So on the side of the packet, it'll talk about how much of the heat it can stop, but it'll also tell you about how much of the visible light it will also stop. There is one product that I don't think anybody's tried yet. You didn't mention my Facebook group, My Efficient Electric Home, 138,000 members. And I keep saying to people, there's a product, Nano Shield, which claims to be able to stop the radiant heat without stopping the visible light so much. But I don't know that anybody's tried that yet. So there are various different films. See what it says on the side of the packet in terms of reducing heat, but it also can be reducing your visible light.
Hi, I was wondering if I've got the loose insulation in the roof, can you put bats on top of it, or do you have to get rid of the loose stuff?
Generally, if you've got insulation in your roof, you keep it, unless it's horribly polluted with, rats and possum poo and all this other stuff. Some people want to get rid of it, but in most cases, you leave it. And then, if it's, you can put bats over the top. And if you were going to be doing a DIY, you'd be working with bats. But if you're going to get a quote from the professionals, such as like EnviroFlex over here, they can discuss with you whether they think it makes sense for them to do bats or to do more blow-in. My daughter bought a place, has some blow-in. It wasn't thick enough, plus the evaporative cooling, we removed that, but that meant we had a few other places we needed to insulate. I was thinking of getting bats and doing it, but I was talking to another insulator, Eco Home, and they were able to look at the house just from Google Maps, and they said, there's no eaves there, so it's going to be really hard to get out to the edge. And they suggested just more blow-in on top of the blow-in that was already there. So that's what we did for that particular house. So the professionals will have some ideas as to what makes sense. And even if you're doing thinking of doing DIY, you can get a quote. If you end up doing a DIY, then you know what you save, but also you may convince yourself that it's not worth doing it DIY.
Pointed out, I didn't mention his Facebook group, which has 138,000 members, which is it's a really good resource because you get to see people's testimonials from after they've made changes to their house. So it's a great community. Everyone sort of jumps in and is really helpful and answers questions. But what I found most interesting was testimonials from people who have made the changes, and they can sort of say these are the very real savings I've made, or my home is this much more comfortable. So it is a great resource if you're on Facebook. Do jump onto that page.
And if you're not on Facebook, we're even thinking of trying to set it up somehow off of Facebook on a similar but not Facebook platform. So stay tuned for that one.
It's essentially the same name, is that right?
Sure.
Electrifying Home? Yeah, without the handbook on the end.
Yep.
So MWEH.
I know you've already answered the question, but I still can't quite get my head around it. So I'm considering putting a hot water system in with the heat pump. I'm just so nervous about the winter and how it can possibly have enough warmth to heat water and not run out.
Yeah, like I said, the refrigerant might be running at like minus 25. And so if it were minus 25 outside, it wouldn't work. Yeah. But chances are in Ballarat it's not going to be that cold, so you can go for that.
Wind chill factor.
And the other thing is often you can run them on a timer. People with solar panels will definitely try to run them on a timer and run it in the middle of the day, because that's when you'll have that 800 watts of electricity to run the thing. And in the middle of the day, it's not going to be quite as cold as it was at 5 in the morning. So you can help a little bit that way. Look, there's the top-of-the-line Reclaim hot water heat pump here, fairly pricey, but it's rated to work at minus 15 degrees outside. So it comes from Japan, and they use it in the snowy regions of Japan, so it'll work fine in Ballarat. If you don't want to spend quite that much, I think I see a fellow with a brochure here with the Apricus. I think it's rated to work down to minus 9. So if you don't think it's going to be any colder than minus 9 in the middle of the day in Ballarat, it'll still work fine. So, this is the advantage we have here in Australia. Our climate isn't that cold. It's perfect for these things. Other places, middle of Canada or something, they might have some bigger challenges.
Yep. If I use all the hot water in the tank, how long before it reheats?
Yeah, now that depends whether you've got it constrained by a timer or not. But if you're worried about running out of hot water, okay, then don't run it on a timer. Yep. The hot water comes out of the top, the cold water comes in the bottom. Same as if you have like a gas storage unit or electric resistive unit. As the cold water comes up, it gets to the thermostat and the thing turns back on again and tries to keep up with you. So whether today you've got a a tank that's electric resistive heated or gas heated, it tries to catch up with you. The heat pumps can operate the same. So yeah, we haven't, we've not got stories of people running out of hot water, other than my son one time. I had his heat pump constrained to a timer, and they filled up, the tank, the heat pump had a capacity of 300 liters. So they put 300 liters in their bathtub, and then the water went cold. So he said, my daughter-in-law was upset, so he said, get over here and turn off the timer. And in which case it would be able to keep up to a certain extent. You'd get more than 300 liters out of the thing. But look, if you've got a good shower head, it's only using like 8 liters a minute. Maybe 5 of those liters are hot. If you're in the shower for 10 minutes, which is a long time for an adult, that's 50 liters. Yeah, you can get them with like 300-liter tanks. So that's 6 showers there. And you can decide whether you're going to constrain it by a timer or not, trying to get the absolutely cheapest hot water or not. It's still going to be pretty cheap, even if you don't bother with the whole timer thing.
Just got time for one more question, because there will be another speaker shortly. There was someone over here.
Yeah, and I'm happy to hang around and answer more questions. I got nowhere else to go. So.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. I've got gas central heating. Can you hear me? Yep. It's very breezy, comes on, comes off, blah, blah, blah. And I was interested in these oil-based electric heaters, they're panel heaters. How do they go versus a heat pump ducted system?
Right, so your cheapest, let me reverse that. The most expensive way to heat, it was with an electric heater, like you just described. So a reverse cycle system will give you heat for like 1/5 the cost of an electric heater. So if you've got an electric heater, don't use it that much before you start thinking about getting a reverse cycle. And then, like I said, the reverse cycle is 1/3 the cost of gas. But yeah, the most expensive form is that electric heat. So you got to be careful with those things. Sometimes a young couple will have a new baby, and they got the baby in the room, and they're running this heater, and then suddenly, boom, they've got a $1,000 electric bill that kind of surprised them. And in that case, maybe they'd have been better off spending $2,000 on a reverse cycle system, which would give you a lot cheaper heat plus cooling for the summer. So if you're going to use an electric heater, just make sure you understand what that's costing you, and be aware that you could get heat for 1/5 the cost if you decided to invest in a air conditioner.
Thank you very much, Tim. I'll just quickly let you know there's been a slight change of plans. The induction cooking demonstration is now at the Solar Flower, which is still over in that direction, but it's no longer at the Breeze tent. It's at the Solar Flower tent. Please thank Tim Forcey one more time for coming along all the way from Melbourne.